Hi everyone, Dave here. You join me in my garden on my old Saltergate seats, as per usual, for the intro for this week's guest. Now this week I am back with the players and I spoke to George Carline. Now George, obviously I don't think I'm alone in saying this, is one of my favourite players of the last few seasons. As he alludes to in the podcast, he's kind of a 7 out of 10 trier. Does all the basics really well, and I think it was probably a time in Chesterfield's history where we really needed players like that. So he was with us at the perfect time. Obviously got a wicked long throw on him, scored a fair few goals and got a bunch of assists and clean sheets along the way. So it was really great to catch up with him. His journey is really interesting in football. He started off not really through an academy setup or anything like that, but actually playing for Cadbury Athletic, which is the chocolate factory's actual football team, playing at Bourneville. So he was doing that while he was at university, and then he kind of worked his way up the pyramid. So at various places, Redditch and Solihull, before obviously joining Chesterfield from Gloucester, as James Rowe was moving from that direction at the same time. In that first season, he got Player of the Season, so was obviously doing something right. And in that second season, had that really cruel injury against Wrexham, where he absolutely shattered his kneecap and then was out for the rest of the season. It's great to see that he's now back fit and playing at Brackley. So we had a chat about his whole career, and it was really great to hear him doing well. He's only in Derby, so I'm sure he'll be up at the Technique again soon to catch up with some old pals. As always, we are at Spire Legends on Twitter and Instagram, and Legends of the Spire on Facebook, so do check us out. And there's also issue 1 of the new fanzine Linda's Sandwich Shop, which is just out, so there'll be a link around here somewhere if you want to go and buy it. So here we are with the latest episode of the podcast. It's back to the players this week, and it's George Carline. So you're actually from Derby, aren't you? So you're actually born from pretty close to Chesterfield, aren't you?
Yeah. Born in Derby, and then I've lived all my childhood over kind of Leicestershire, Ashby de la Zouch way. So yeah, when the opportunity came to come to Chesterfield, really, it was ideal, kind of locality wise. It was perfect. But yeah, I grew up around, obviously born in Derby, grew up around here, and then ended up going to university in Birmingham. So I spent a lot of my young adult years around there, really, and playing football around there. That's why a lot of my teams that I've played for around that kind of area.
Were you ever part of an academy or anything like that?
No. So I kind of, like any other lad does, kind of plays local, in local teams with their mates and things like that. Played a lot at school, kind of captained the school teams and things like that. But no, just kind of local teams. And then I was getting problems with my knee. I played that many sports. I kind of just chucked myself into everything, really. I played a lot of rugby from the age of, what would it have been? Probably around 11 to 13, because our school didn't actually have a football team. So it was just one of them that, to try to stay in sport, just had to play rugby. You had one of those, it was just rugby teachers. So we played a lot of rugby, and I just kind of played any other sport as well: cricket, football, rugby. And I think the amount of sport that I played kind of took its toll on my knees a little bit during that development stage. So I kind of stepped away from football at the age of 13, 14, I think it was. Yeah, so I had a bit of a clear out of my knee when I was around 14, so just didn't play and didn't really. Obviously, I still watched football and I loved being involved in it, but I wasn't playing the kind of competitive level, even though the competitive level I was playing at was just kind of local football. I just stepped away from it for about 3 or 4 years. And just before I decided to go to university, I kind of got back playing for my local team in Ashby. So that was like under 18s, just I think it was Leicestershire Flood Little League or something like that, just to kind of get back into the competitive side of it. And again, a few of my mates were still playing around that age, so it was good just to jump back into it. But I had no real ambitions of moving on and taking it on as a career kind of full time, because my focus at that time was going through college, and then the natural progression at that stage for me was to go to university.
What did you do at university then? What did you study?
So I studied, it was called Sport, PE and Coaching Science, a lot around kind of just the pedagogy and teaching and stuff like that, around coaching methods and things, but then some of the sports science involved in that as well. So certain modules were kind of sports sciencey as well. And I kind of always knew the route was going to be down teaching, but obviously along the way you have other interests as well. So the sports science stuff, I did kind of sports psychology modules and things like that. But I generally kind of took that teaching route.
And I read that you kind of, it was the university team that you didn't get in the university team. So you ended up at Cadbury Athletic, which I never knew Cadbury Athletic existed.
Yeah. So, like I said, I never really, I think I went to university and it was one of them, they have that many teams and social groups and things like that. You can get involved in anything from, I don't know what they're like taekwondo and just all sorts of things that you can just play casually, not too competitively. So I was looking around all kind of sorts of things. I think I went to Gaelic football club for a little bit, just tried that out for a couple of sessions. And then my mate was like, yeah, the trials are this day. Went along with him. It was one of my mates from school, actually. He was already at the university from the year before, so I knew him. And he said, yeah, the trials are here. We went along and there must have been about 200 or 300 people there. And it was kind of run by the students, and you probably got about 5 touches of the ball, and it was kind of a bit of a shambles, but one of them obviously didn't stand out at that stage. But I'm that kind of player. I probably don't stand out in a trial anyway. Just kind of a hard-working, consistent type of player. But yeah, it was one of them. So I don't think either of us got in any of the teams. And I kind of left it at that. And then I think a week or two later, he was like, I found this team that's one stop on the train down from Solihull. So he was like, let's go just down there and see what it's like. And it went from there, really. It was, it's probably the best decision that I made in terms of that kind of footballing career at the start, because there was no pressure, really. Like I said, you're not getting paid any money. I think some teams might have got a little bit, 10, 20 quid expenses or something like that in that league. But it was, for Cadbury, they made clear straight away that they didn't do any of that. So I kind of we just went for the crack, really. And there was, like I said, there was no pressure, and the people down there were spot on, and it was ideal for me for 2 years.
Yeah, and it's actually play at Bourneville, don't you?
Yeah. So like I said, one stop on the train for me. So it was literally 5 minutes on the train. We jumped on, never paid for the train anyway. You could get through there was never the barriers down anyway. So didn't have to pay to get the train down. And then, you'd get off and you'd smell the chocolate straight away. So you'd be, they're actually back down there now. Actually, they moved away for a couple of years because of ground regulations or something, but they're actually back down at the recreational ground, like by Cadbury World now. And you're playing and you can obviously smell the chocolate being made, which is quite nice. But it was really good.
And I read you scored like 40 goals one season or something like that, was it? That's what I read somewhere. So for first season, as
any new players kind of coming into a new team. Me and my mate got chucked into the reserves from the start. Played a few games in that, and then I think quickly went up into the first team. And like I said, it was I think it was, I'm trying to think what step of non-league it was. It was probably step, I'm trying to think now, 7 maybe, something like that. That was the first team that was in step 7. So I kind of went into, played probably half the season in the first team the first year. Did all right in that. I can't remember where we finished. And then the second year, it was just kind of, I knew that I was kind of comfortable at that level, and I was playing further forward, kind of left side of midfield mainly, but you're coming up against a lot of kind of slow, maybe older fullbacks, and a lot of just simple 1-2s around fullbacks kind of got me in, and I was scoring goals. And again, headers at the back post, which again I could jump higher than most of them and nod them in. But just kind of started from the first game. I remember scoring, I think, 1 or 2 in the first game. I thought every game I was going into, I think I should score it really. So yeah, somehow I ended up getting, I think, 40 in 38, 39 appearances or something like that in all competitions. So yeah, it was an enjoyable season.
And then you moved on moving on a bit. So you were at like Redditch for a bit, Hensford for a bit. Did you get player of the season at Redditch, I think?
Yeah, I think possibly, I can't remember which season I got player of the year there. But yeah, after that Cadbury season, I just got asked to go into Redditch pre-season, train, just see how it was, because I think it was 4 or 5 leagues up. But settled in pretty quickly, really. And again, it was just a case of just playing games, really, which you can't really beat at any level, just consistently playing games. And that was the first time that I was earning any kind of money. I think I went in there on 50 quid a week or something like that, which was a nice little bonus. I was in my 3rd year at university. So I was getting, and then it gradually started going up a bit because I was doing all right. So I think the manager was to try and keep hold of me, 75 quid and then 100 quid. And then by the time I left, I was probably on, I don't know, 125 quid or something like that.
Do you start to think then, oh, actually, I wonder how far this can go? Were you always quite relaxed about it, or did you start?
Yeah, potentially, because obviously it was a step up, and it'd be 2 leagues below what Chesterfield are now, so a league below what I'm playing now, and clubs. So league clubs would, even more so in recent years, start looking into non-league, don't they? And I was a little bit younger then, but we had a few lads that moved on. So the first year that I was at Redditch, a lad called Jermaine Hilton moved on to Swindon, so he got a move into the league in the January. So when you see stuff like that happening, you think, well, if he can do it, kind of thing, then why can't others? Because obviously you play and train with them every day, and you think you're either a similar standard or whatever. But yeah, you don't get ahead of yourself. You just, like I said, just play games and just see what happens. At the same time, I was still doing my university, and then I did my PGCE to train to become a teacher. So that was still my focus. But at the same time, the football, it's one of them things that I was doing for enjoyment. But like you said, it starts to become a little bit more serious when you see people moving on and making a career of it.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously you've obviously played a lot of positions. Are there any positions you've not played? Played in
probably just in goal. I think that actually might be the only position I've not played. So
I've spoken to some players before where it's like almost like it's a blessing and a curse to be the utility player, because that you can play a lot of games, but then on the other flip side, you can be moving around position quite a lot, which can be quite hard to adjust. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it is. I think if you can learn a position and try and settle down a position in a team, you're probably better off. But again, from the outside for managers, it's something that they appreciate, I think, and might look for in play in certain situations. They might think, I need a player that can do this. So that might be your opportunity to get signed by a team or a manager because they see that quality in you. But I know what you're saying in terms of that seemed to happen a little bit at Solihull the last couple of years I was there. I kind of, like you said, played here, there and everywhere, and never really got settled running the team. That might have been down to the managers not thinking I had the quality or what, but I was always involved in the squads, and I was coming on and doing a job. And when I started games, I always thought I did all right, and it was a case of even though I thought I did all right, I kind of in the back of my mind thought I'm not really going to get a run in the team, because there's obviously players that only play that position and then they come back in for you and things like that. But yeah, it's not something that I'd change. I think I pride myself on being able to be versatile and be able to play different positions and being able to read the game in different positions as well, because I think it's an important quality to have.
Yeah. So you mentioned Solihull. So that step up again with Solihull. So obviously it's going right direction. What's it like at Solihull? Because we've obviously, as Chesterfield fans, we've got a bit of a funny relationship with Solihull now after the playoffs last year and a few games we've had with them. Yeah. They're the most favourite club of Chesterfield. But from your position of having played for them, I suppose it's probably slightly different. Yeah,
I've noticed that just from online and things like that. They get a bit of stick. I ended up following my previous man. He ended up getting the Solihull job, Liam McDonald, and I ended up going with him to Solihull. And they were still just part time when I went, so they were just training Tuesday and Thursday nights still, even though they'd gone into the National League. The budget that they had obviously didn't allow for them to go full time straight away. So those first couple of years, it was a bit of a struggle and a battle just to stay in the league. And I think we did well to achieve that, really, because obviously it set the club up to be able to stay in there and cement themselves and obviously progress the way they have. But yeah, there's been a lot of change in that 4 or 5 years or 6 years this season since I joined. Obviously, Darryl went in with his investment and things like that, and it's kind of light years away from what it was at the start. But yeah, we like I said, it was a bit of a battle to stay in the league to start with. And I think we built on that, just being a bit of a horrible team and just kind of sticking to that identity of just when teams come there, they just did not want to be there. And we Tim Flowers built a team of giants and me with the long throws, and it just, it worked because we thinking back to it, we should have really won the league, because I think we finished 3 points off the top that season that Leyton Orient won it. And the run of games that we had towards the end of the season, I think we just threw it away a little bit, really.
Do you practice the long throws in training or anything like that, or is it just a bit of an on the day?
I think that was a Tim Flowers thing as well. I think he, I don't know when it was during it might have been at the start of the season. He probably thought, I think we needed a long throw or something extra for this team, and a few people stepped up and practiced one session. I'd never done them in a game or anything. And then I lobbed one in, and he's like, yeah, he got very excited by it. So they use that weapon, I suppose, for the rest of that season, and then it's been something that I suppose other managers want to use, because you see other clubs using it now and scoring goals from it, and why not? Really, it's something that you can utilise then and go for it.
It disappeared out of the game for a bit, didn't it? And then it does seem to have had a resurgence.
Yeah,
a lot of clubs now that have that as a different way to score, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird. The game obviously goes through phases, doesn't it? The kind of football that you see now at the top level is unbelievable. Some of the teams that you see in the players, but even some of the best footballing teams, I've seen them using it now. They have. I know that Liverpool have got throwing coaches and things like that. That might not be specifically for long throws, but yeah, I think they realise that in the certain situations that why not, kind of thing.
And it's another great way to make yourself completely indispensable to a team as well, isn't it? If you've got the long throw weapon, you can't bring on special teams like the NFL. You've got to be on the pitch, haven't you?
Well, that's it. Yeah, just try and find everything that. Yeah, I just head it, throw it. Find little attributes that managers might like, and then, like you said, getting the team.
Right. So you ended up joining us via Gloucester. Obviously, it was the kind of the James Rowe link, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He brought a few players to us. So was that like December time? I think you came.
Yeah, I think it was start of December. Yeah, first week of December, maybe, that 2020.
So how'd that all come about then, that move? Did it come about before he'd left? Like, right, do you want to come to...
Yeah, I got to be careful what you said. There's always two kind of sides to a story.
Yeah.
But it was a bit of a weird one, because we were doing so well at Gloucester. I think we were top of the league. We had a really good team there. And then there was kind of rumours that the manager might be going for the Chesterfield job. And I was thinking, I was looking at where Chesterfield were in the league. I think 21st at the time, weren't you?
Yeah, it's pretty
something like that. And we were top of the league, and I was thinking, does he really want to go and take that job? But in terms of other things, then he clearly thought he could go and do a job. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, he might want to take a few players with him, kind of thing. But it didn't. It wasn't one of them that I was thinking straight away. And then I think literally over the weekend, I think we played a game on the Saturday, and then I think I was finding out that he got the job on the Monday or the Tuesday, which is just like, okay. And then over the next week or so, obviously things come through either from agents and things like that there's interest in people, and he wanted me to go there. So obviously your ears prick up a little bit, and you start thinking about, again, the thing that I was thinking about was kind of going back up a league and competing in that, and especially for a club of that size. Interestingly, because I was out of contract obviously at Solihull that summer, so in the pandemic, obviously out of contract during that. And he got in touch with me that summer. That's the first time I spoke to Rowe, to go to Gloucester, because I think I played against his team while I was on loan at Leamington. But so I was out of contract at Solihull, and Chesterfield was one of the teams I was thinking, that would be ideal for me. Kind of, I know I can play this level, so I knew that I could play the National League. And like we said earlier, the locality of it and things like that. So I tried to get in Chesterfield that summer, just to try and either on trial or just go and train or whatever. But the manager at the time just wasn't interested. So obviously I went to Gloucester for a few months, and it was a weird time because our season got delayed. So I was out of contract at Solihull, and then had nothing coming in until I think the October. I think our season started the October, so that few months was weird. So just waiting, and my savings was going down and down because it was just a bit of a weird time. But then, that opportunity came up to go to Chesterfield. Again, I won't go into too much detail and things like that. I get so much stick from Gloucester fans about kind of how I left and stuff like that. But I was I was within my rights to be able to say I wanted to go there. That's all I say.
Yeah, of course.
Here is Oyeleka, and now Taylor, the man who's proved to be a danger throughout the game, takes on Arthurs, gets ahead of him, gets the cross into the box with Tyson, and then Carline! George Carline fires Chesterfield back into the lead. And I have to say, he's cut in from that right-hand side on numerous occasions and gone close. And this time he scores. It's a great finish from George Carline. Promptly caught out at the back. George Carline in acres of space, drifted into the box and finished. Disappointing goal to concede.
And it started off quite well at Chesterfield, didn't it? I was looking. It was a 1-0 win over Sutton, wasn't it? I think your debut. And then that second game was the 6-0 over Barnet, wasn't it? So it was a good old start, wasn't it? When you came in?
Yeah. We couldn't have asked for a much better start, really. Obviously, you're going into a team that are clearly struggling a bit because they wouldn't have been in the league and they wouldn't have needed a new manager. So you don't really know what to expect. But I think the attitude of the lads that were there, when obviously there was a high turnover of players, wasn't there? I think Joel Taylor came in, I think played that first game as well. He was my debut as well. I think he made his debut. And then it seemed to carry on for the next however many weeks and months, players coming in. But like I said, the lads that were there at the time, their attitude was spot on. And obviously they were a big part, as well as the players coming in, to turning it around and obviously climbing up the league. But yeah, that Barnet game with I think Quasi scored a hat-trick, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think that just kind of sparked it and got the excitement going again, didn't it, really?
Yeah. Was it weird not having, because obviously all through that time, I was having a look, actually you only played, I think, 5 games in front of the Chesterfield home fans, I think, over your time there or something.
Yeah,
it was the time when there was no fans, wasn't it?
That's one thing I put when I tweeted out at the end of when I knew I was leaving. It was a weird time because I know how passionate they are and how many fans they get down at the Technique Stadium. Just to, like you said, was it only 5 times that?
5, yeah, I think at home. Yeah,
it can't be many more than that. To play in front of them, that was the only disappointing thing, really, because it was, every game was kind of like a training game. You know, it's being streamed and there's reaction from fans after the game and stuff online, but yeah, it's not really the same. You can see from kind of celebrations when they score the goals. Like if you look back at clips and highlights and stuff of the games, when you score the goal, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, and then just jog back to the halfway line. Whereas if you score in front of the fans, the buzz is unbelievable, and you kind of lose your mind for a second, and you have to run over and just enjoy it. So yeah, that was disappointing, but it was the sign of the times, I suppose, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was, wasn't it? And like I say, that season went then incredibly well. I think you only missed 1 game, which I think was due to suspension. But yeah, apart from that, you played every game, didn't you? So it was settled in really easy again to that level, didn't you? Like you say, you kind of knew you could play there.
Yeah, I think I've said this to managers and other players. There's not a lot of there's no kind of complication. My game's not very complicated in terms of what I do, and I kind of just pride myself on being hardworking and consistent. And I think during that time or a few years of disappointment, I suppose, and struggle at Chesterfield, I think that's all the fans kind of wanted to see or want to see anyway, is kind of someone who's going to kind of leave it all out there and just be consistent and give their all, really. So that's kind of what I did. And obviously, as that happened, the team started doing well. We had unbelievable players come in, and Quasi was on fire at the time. And again, it was a big team effort just to get in the playoffs that season, really, I think. Yeah,
and I've spoken to James Montgomery, obviously, about that Notts County game, and him.
Yeah, I've seen him talking about it. Yeah,
and it's I think could have won that game had that not have happened, because you could tell certainly with their winner that he just couldn't come off the line and grab it. It was kind of one of those things, wasn't it, where it could have been so different at the end of that season. But
yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? To get that in such a big game, and like you said, you look back at the goals, and if he hasn't had that injury, he's coming and claiming them, isn't he? He's coming and just catching them. But yeah, for myself, even towards the end of that season, I don't think I did myself too much justice. I was getting ripped up by Calvin, I think, in that game, especially in the first half. And I was kind of even I think for the last few months, really, I was carrying a few little niggles. But again, it was one of them that I don't think that the manager had someone to bring into that position at the time. I can't think who was behind me or in the squad that I suppose he didn't trust them to come into that position. But yeah, I definitely didn't do myself too much justice then last couple of probably 6-8 weeks in that season, just through kind of fitness, really. But it was still a good experience to, like I said, just to get into the playoffs. But that game against Notts was a bit of a sickener, to be honest.
What was all the training like and everything then around then? What is it? Was it kind of a tough taskmaster in training, the gaffer then, and the rest of the squad?
Yeah, I've seen it. Obviously, I think you want to ask that question. The fans want to know what it was like during that time and things like that. He had kind of standards that, or he probably still does. He has standards that he wants people to meet, and I suppose, you can say he's a tough taskmaster. I've found that he helped me in terms of my game is kind of settling down that position and learning that position a bit better. Because like we mentioned before, where being used here, there, and everywhere, not being taught a specific position, which is a bit mad, really, when you get into, you think at the age of 20, what would I have been, 27, whatever I was, you think someone should have taught you a position or taught you how to play a position. But if you haven't been in an academy or never had a settled position, then it just hadn't happened. So even at that age, just kind of simple instructions to, this is where you should be when the ball's there, or just simple things like that just kind of helped me. So in terms of his coaching, I benefited from that. But yeah, he could lose his rag, like any manager, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to turn it into another podcast about, James Rowe or anything like that. So we can park all that stuff. This is your podcast rather than.
I think everyone's. I think everyone's kind of beat around the bush about everything anyway. And you can't. Again, whatever went on, I was. I'm trying to think what happened, because I was obviously still injured. I was kind of in the club, but not full time. So when I wasn't like coming in every single day, because I was kind of hospital scans, all that kind of stuff. And then when it happened, I was like, what the hell's going on here? It literally popped up, and the first that I'd seen of it was manager suspended. And I was like, wow, okay. and then everything's kind of hearsay after that. So even now, I've heard that many different things. You don't know what to believe.
Yeah. So you got Player of the Season, didn't you? Player of the Year end of that season.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise. I don't even know if I've got the trophy actually. I best get on to John Crute and get the trophy sent. I got presented it by him on the pitch, but I'm thinking now I haven't actually got anything, so I don't know if I get to keep what, you know, where you normally get one to keep and then there's like one engraved somewhere or something like that. I've not actually got anything, so you get onto Crute for me, then he can send one in the post.
Send this message out to him.
Yeah.
SOS for your Player of the Season.
It would just go in the box in the loft, but it'll be nice to get out in a few years.
Yeah. I mean, with the way that season went, obviously lots of big wins, and you see, like, you know, the amount of goals that Kwasi scored and other players that he brought in and stuff. You know, to come out the top of the tree on that boat it must have been really satisfying. Yeah,
it was nice. I think, like I said before, I think the fans kind of resonate with someone who's hardworking and consistent, really. And again, when there's someone consistently in the team and doing okay, and the team's being successful, then you're always going to kind of be in contention. But I don't really like taking the individual accolades. I'd much rather Kwasi have won Player of the Season and him gone and not got injured, got 30 goals, and we go up. It's one of that. If your right back's getting Player of the Season, then I don't think you're going to be either winning the playoffs or going up. Do you know what I mean? You want your strikers and your attacking flair players really to be winning those, and that's what they love anyway. The strikers, they want all the praise, don't they? But that's how it should work, really. The defenders are there to build a base for the team, to allow those flair players, attacking players, to go and do their thing, really.
Yeah, but you do still want the trophy.
Of course I do. Yeah.
So that second season, then, obviously fans. In fact, it was just going back a bit. Dagenham, that last home game of the season, that was when the fans came back, wasn't it? We had like a limited number. It was really weird. We were all like sat in twos, like around the stadium. It was kind of a nice atmosphere that day, wasn't it? I think Danny Rowe scored a couple that day. It must have been nice to see the stadium with a few fans in it.
Yeah, it was. I think what there was about 3,000 in there.
Yeah, something like that, wasn't it?
But it felt loads more than that, just because, like you said, you were sat in twos and they were spread all around the ground. So it felt like there was at least kind of 6,000 people in there. But yeah, that was a great moment, just to, obviously, the first time to feel that atmosphere down there. And it just felt like a proper game, and like none of the games that season just felt like a proper game.
Yeah. So going on to next season, then, I suppose the mentality had changed anyway during that season before, but obviously we'd started so low. But when you're starting on a clean sheet again, you kind of go into that season as one of the favourites, don't you? Going into the season, so it's a different dynamic, isn't it, to start a season?
Yeah, there's a different kind of pressure, isn't there? I don't think there was much pressure that first season, because you're coming in where the team's in the league and where they are in the league, and the further it goes on, you think, we could actually make playoffs here, kind of thing. And it's just that excitement more than anything. But then, yeah, like you said, that the next season, that pressure, and I think there was an expectation that we'd go on and win the league, and that's the way it should have been, because there's obviously the signings that we made in Cabs, and some of the others coming in, we were only getting stronger. So that was the expectation. Personally, for me, I don't think I even had a pre-season that year. We went away to Loughborough and had a training camp in Loughborough, which was good for everyone to kind of that team bonding. but I don't think I trained at all throughout that training camp. I had like I said, from the back end of the season before, I had a bit of a niggle. So I was just kind of rehabbing that more than anything. And the idea was to try and ease me into the season a little bit. I wasn't going to play for the first, I think, five or six games. It was kind of going to be minutes here, there and everywhere. And then Kingy ended up getting injured in the second game of the season, I think it was. So now I was thrown in. But yeah, it was a bit of a strange one for me, really. Obviously, we started well, and it's good to see the team doing so well. But that, obviously, you'll probably ask about the injury in a sec, but it was, it's a disappointing one for me.
Yeah, so it was like 9 games, I think, you played that season.
Yeah, I think Wrexham was the 9th game.
And then before we go on to the injury, I want to go on to a few goals, because there was a real variety of goals. Actually, I was looking at them all last night, and the ones that you scored. You had your typical back post one. You had your bit of a tap in from a corner. There was the Kings Lynn, which was. It was interesting, the Kings Lynn goal, because it's like a long throw that then came back to you and you just kind of hit it.
Yeah, assisted by myself. Yeah, just
that makes your long throw even more indispensable if you end up scoring the goal from it as well.
Yeah, it was. I was pleased. I was pleased with some of the goals I scored. It took too long for me to score my first goal. I was a bit disappointed in that the season before. So I always think I can be a goal threat, like you say, either at the back post or just timing to get in certain areas. But yeah, the one that sticks out in my mind is the Bromley one. It looks so nice on camera as well, right behind the angle of the ball. But yeah.
When you score a goal like that, is it a bit like, oof? Like, do you know when it's, because it was like one of those, you hit it perfectly and you just kind of see the ball.
Especially for me, I don't score many like that. No, I think I went earlier on in my career. I think I went about 10 or 11 goals where I just scored with my head. I didn't score with my feet. Like a run of goals, it was ridiculous. I just was scoring with my head all the time. So it was nice to break that. I think that I scored my last goal for Solihull was with my feet, and I broke that bit of a duck. And then, but yeah, to score a goal like that was it's unbelievable. The celebration was a bit annoying because Curtis knocks me off balance as I was celebrating, and I kind of nearly fell over. So that took the shine off it a little bit for me.
And then there was the header, wasn't there, against, I think it was Wealdstone, I think, a few games before that start that season. I think. Header in front of the cop, which must have been nice to then score in front of a full cop.
Yeah, that was really good. Unbelievable little overhead kick from Gav Gunning, and then just nodded it in. But like you said, the celebration in front of the cop, then that's when you appreciate those fans being in the ground, because like I said earlier, the buzz that you get and the roar that you get from the stands is, you can't really describe it, to be honest.
With the ball in. Fingers in there. And it's headed home by George Carline. The Spireites have a second goal. And George Carline has put it into the net. Just when it looked like Wealdstone might be going to hang on. George Carline makes it 2-0 in the 81st minute of the game. It's Chesterfield 2, Wealdstone 0.
So I suppose we go on to injury then. So it was at Wrexham, wasn't it? It's in that, which apparently with the Welcome to Wrexham series that is on, apparently episode 4 is very much based on that game, apparently, and what happened in that match. But it kind of happened, but then you played on for a bit, didn't you? So what happened from your point of view?
Yeah, so it was a 50-50 challenge. I've watched it back quite a few times, I actually played with the lad Jamie Record at Solihull, and we've both gone in. And he gets the ball first, so he nicks the ball away first, and then it's just all of his weight, all of his studs have gone into my knee, so all of his weight's just gone into that one knee. The manager said at the time it's a horrendous tackle. It's one of them that he's not meant to hurt me. He's flicked the ball away first, and it's just an unfortunate kind of clattering of. It's obviously turned out nasty. But yeah, we've both gone down, and Jamie's actually gone off at half time, and then at half time it's one of them where I don't know if I just thought I'd bruised the bone or something like that. I was icing my knee. Felt okay. I wasn't in loads and loads of pain. It just felt like a bit of more of a dead leg but on the bone kind of thing. So I'm icing it, and then I've gone out for the second half. And I can feel myself struggling a little bit in the second half, but I'm not one of them to say, yeah, bring me off now kind of thing. So I've kind of carried on playing. In hindsight, I should have come off at half time, because I think the tackle obviously cracked my kneecap across. And then all the impact during that second half, either jumping and landing, obviously weakened it. And then I've gone to volley a ball from a corner, I think it was. Just planted my left foot, and then my knee's just kind of given way. And that's obviously made it a bigger injury than it probably should have been. But I'm not really one of them to say what if and things like that. So yeah, it turned out to be a nasty one. And like I said, in hindsight, I should have come off, but hey ho.
I saw the comments at the time saying that it was like akin to a bad car crash injury, and
yeah, the surgeon was saying. I don't think, to me personally, I don't think he didn't say that straight away, because you don't want to say that you don't want to make out how bad someone's injury, especially when they're a footballer, how bad the injury is. But it wasn't until probably because I ended up having 3 operations on my knees, because I had infection. It was getting infected and things like that. It wasn't until after the second clear out, so the third time, they'd opened my knee up and it had all healed, and basically it was all good. It wasn't until then that he said, well, yeah, it was a horrible one kind of thing. And he was amazed at how well the bone and everything had ended up healing. So yeah, it was definitely a nasty one. But it's kind of all good now. It's a bit weird because I've not actually got any metal work in it, so I think that might have helped me in terms of the pain. That I don't really get any pain in my kneecap at the moment. So it's fingers crossed it carries on that way.
And obviously that season we had a lot of injured players, more probably injured than fit. Obviously, when you're injured, you end up kind of out of that core group of players because they have to carry on, I suppose, on the focus of winning matches and things like that. But did you become quite isolated from everything when you've got a long injury like that? Or was the fact that you had so many injured players meant that you could kind of have a bit of solace in other people going through the same thing? What's it like?
I think the first few months was the toughest because of that isolation, really. That there was a lot of time that I couldn't actually get into the first 6 weeks when I'm in a straight cast. I couldn't go anywhere really. Couldn't do anything. So those 6 weeks, and then the first couple of months when I'm in a brace were the toughest, just because the reliance I had on other people. So my now wife, fiance at the time, her having to do all these things for me. I don't like asking for help anyway. So when she's having to help me getting in and out of the shower and down the stairs and all this kind of stuff. I think I felt more bad for her than I did kind of in myself. So it was, it took its toll on her, I think, more than anything, which obviously affected me. But in terms of the team, like you said, when I actually got back in and was doing my rehab in the club full time, the injuries were mad and seemed to be dropping like flies. Obviously, I was in the gym every single day, morning and afternoon, doing whatever rehab, and then every other day you'd be like, so you're injured now. Kind of someone else would join you. Someone else would join you in the gym. You'd be thinking, what is going on? It helped in terms of your motivation. We had like me, the kind of the core group. I think the long termers, me, Hayden Hollis, ended up being Jack Clark and Cabby. So us four were probably and then Luke Kroll towards the end. Were the ones that were in the gym every day, so you can and those lads were all good in terms of their attitude and things like that. So that made it a lot easier. So I'm keeping my eye on how all of them are doing, just because we became closer just through doing our rehab together.
Excellent opportunity to level the scores, having been 2-0 down just a few moments before. Drilled into the box here by Whelan, headed there, and it's found Carline. And just as I say that, Chesterfield have a third there. The header from Maguire, it found Carline at the back post, a free man. His second goal of the season, and it's re-established a 2-goal cushion for the visitors. It's now Woking 1, Chesterfield 3.
And obviously, it's then not ideal during that time if you have a change of manager, because you can't do anything to impress them or show them what you can do, can you? If you're not playing, what was it like? Did you end up having a conversation with Cookie or anything like that when he came in? Did he, or was he?
He was always supportive. Obviously, the stage I was at when he came in, I had ambitions of. I touched on it before. If everything went right with my injury, it should have only really been 5 or 6 months probably. And I started, I think it was just before Cookie came in that I started getting issues with it and infections and things like that. So it kept putting me back. But he was always supportive. Every day he was checking how it was doing. How I was getting on, progressing, talking with the physios and things like that. But it was hard for him because I was getting setbacks every few weeks. Really, I thought it was getting better, and then it'd flare up again, and we'd go backwards. So it was tough. I think he just had to knock it on the head that I wasn't going to be available that season, because he needed to look around the squad and see who was going to be available for when, things like that. And it was, I think it was so tough at the time. To try and plan for, like I said, who was coming back when. It was silly really in terms of the amount and the severity of the injuries that we did have.
Yeah. And going to the end of that season then, and like pre-season, you did obviously train with us, didn't you? In the summer. Was there a chance of getting a contract there, or?
I went in. I went in with the intention that I wanted to go in and impress and get a contract. I made it clear straight away from the outset that I wanted to stay and earn a contract. So I went in. I worked hard over the summer as well when we were off to hopefully go in and kind of full steam ahead and be within it straight away. So the first week or so of pre-season, I was in full training and doing pretty well really. I felt fit and strong, and I think looking back, I probably just did a bit too much too soon. Didn't control my kind of load well enough, and then I was getting little niggles here and there for a week or so. And then it came towards the end of end of the month, I think it was a few weeks into pre-season, we just had the conversation, me and the manager, and he just thought that either I wasn't in a position to offer what he wanted in that squad, or the club weren't in a position to offer me something. I think it was a bit of both, really. And it's one of them. It's kind of no hard feelings. I said to the manager, I expected to come in kind of, like I said, all guns blazing, trying to really impress. And obviously it didn't work out that way. So it's just one of them, really.
So you're at Brackley now?
Yeah.
And obviously scored a few goals as well. Keep seeing you scoring a few.
Got a couple in the first 5 games. Got a couple. We've started a little bit inconsistent. I think. Well, we're 6 games in now. We've won 3 and lost 3, but similar to Chesterfield, really. We've had there's been a big turnover of players, and I think it's, especially when you're a part-time team, it takes a bit longer to bed in and for the team to gel a bit. Obviously, you're not working with people. The managers aren't working with the squad day to day, so it's always going to take a bit longer. But there's definite signs there that we can progress and have a successful season, because the management team in particular, and some of the lads that have been there for a good few years are obviously experienced, being up towards the top of that league. So I don't think there's no reason why we can't be moving up and challenging again.
And I suppose on a personal level, after last season, it'll just be nice to play a full season, won't it? And
yeah, that's the aim. It's been good just to get in. I've played, I think, 90 minutes in every single game so far. So it's kind of that reassurance that your knees holding up and your body in general, and you kind of keeping your fitness and things like that. So I think that's what I'm focusing on at the minute, is if I can put everything into being the best version of me, then I think it will help the team and we can, like I said, be successful.
And are you still doing anything in terms of teaching and stuff like that? I saw at one point you started a business with your brother, didn't you?
Yeah. So I had that business. We had that business for 5 years. So when I first started at Solihull, there was that kind of ambition that, obviously, like I said, they were part-time at the time, but I knew that there'd be that kind of ambition to move on to full-time with Solihull. So that's why I started that up with my brother. I haven't got that anymore. That we had that for 5 years. It was a great experience, kind of working and managing a business and a staff and things like that. But hopefully starting next week, actually, I'm going back in and doing some teaching when the kids are back. And there's a few other things that I've got kind of lined up potentially. So yeah, I'm keeping busy. I still like to have a little bit of flexibility if I can, not be tied down to particular days and months that I can work and things like that. So hopefully I'll have a little bit of flexibility. But it's good that it's nice that Brackley have put their faith in me, and the management and the ownership and things like that have put that faith in me. So hopefully I can repay that on that side of things.
And obviously, last couple of questions, but obviously, you obviously still keeping in touch with a lot of those Chesterfield players, because there's still quite a lot of them there, isn't there? Will we? And you're not that far away. Will we see you at a match sometime?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get up. Obviously, you have to find one when I'm not playing. I saw Dented. I think did he commentate on the?
He did, yeah.
Was it the Barnet game?
Yes, I think yeah.
Yeah.
Friday night one. Yeah.
He's obviously been up there. Yeah, I'll definitely get to a game at some point. Like I said, try and find one when I'm not playing as well. It's only 45 minutes up the road from me. But yeah, dropped a few texts here and there just to see how people are getting on. Obviously, some of the lads have moved on, some are still there. But yeah, the squad that Cookie's put together is clearly, obviously, you've watched them more than I would have done this season, but some of the signs are very promising. It's good. It's just good. Yeah, like I said, it's good to see that the lads that I know that were there before that are still kind of doing it and proving to the manager that they can do it, and that they're going to be an important part of it. But yeah, I keep watching when I can. Watch the Notts County game, which was a bit disappointing in terms of the way that the points were thrown away. But yeah, some of the football that they're playing is it's not surprising because I've obviously seen the players coming in pre-season. It's not surprising for me, but it's just good to see it actually put into fruition.
Well, I'm sure that I think Phil Tooley usually watches most of these, so I'm sure he'll be in touch if the schedule falls and he needs a co-commentator. I'm sure he'll be on the phone.
I look forward to it.
Great.
Going.
Yeah. Well, from a Chesterfield fan's point of view, I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but I'm sure I can. But like you say, you're one of those players that were ultimately incredibly consistent and solid, and you've clean sheets, assists, and goals. And you're kind of one of those players that if you're going to mark players out of 10, you could probably put a 7 to 10 on you from before the match even started, because generally you were really consistent week in, week out. So it's just a shame we didn't get to see a bit more of you for a few more seasons. But you're excellent while you were here.
Yeah, that's what my brother said in his best man speech. He says he's always a 7 out of 10. Like talking about football, and I said, that's not really a compliment, is it? Consistently average.